Welcome to Philly Fortune Talks with your host, Jake Penny, where the city's brightest minds share the secrets behind their success. Are you ready to be inspired?
Prepare to be inspired by the remarkable journey of Rasool Mutawakkil, a U.S. Army veteran turned multifamily investor and financial coach. After serving as a military intelligence operative post 9/11, Rasool transitioned into the world of real estate, quickly building a multifamily portfolio of over 3,984 doors, valued at more than $420 million. As the principal of Rasool CRE, Rasool specializes in financial analysis and underwriting, helping others achieve financial freedom through smart investing. His mission? To empower individuals to build generational wealth and retire with confidence. Let's dive into his story and the principles that have helped him achieve success against all odds. Rasool, it's a pleasure to have you on Philly Fortune Talks.
Jake, man, thanks so much for having me, dude. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, give the audience a brief background. You know, you were a U.S. Army intelligence operative to real estate. How did that journey happen? And what inspired you?
Yeah, so I went into the Army on a whim. I had good grades in high school and I had a scholarship to go to either UF or FSU, but I just wanted to do something different. And at the time, it's like right when 9/11 happened, when I was in my deliberations. And that kind of sparked in me like, okay, you know what? Let me go serve my country. I had just watched Full Metal Jacket for the first time, so I was like all gung ho, ready to go. And I did 5 years in the Army, and I was like, okay, that was awful. Let me let me not re-enlist for this. And so I went in, fast forward, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad after I got out. And that kind of set the tone. At least it planted that seed inside of me. I knew about real estate investing and how you can create your own wealth and everything like that. But at the time, I just wasn't mentally prepared because I just got out of the Army. I hadn't gone to college yet. And I was, hanging around my knuckle dragon friends. We were all just like partying in Miami is what we did. And so it wasn't until I went to college and I put myself into massive, massive amounts of debt to get my degree in video game programming that I realized I hate programming video games. And so I ended up getting a sales job, a couple sales jobs. I got my life insurance license and I got my real estate license. And so I was always hustling in the streets, doing stuff, and decided, like, you know what, I've got this expensive degree. Let me go and get into that. And so I uprooted my life, took my then girlfriend, now wife, from Orlando, Florida to Kansas City in the Midwest. And I started my corporate career. Ended up making the transition from tech into finance as a senior financial analyst in the Department of Housing and Urban Development. So this is where, at this point, I think about 10 years had passed since I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I've always thought about this like, man, I want to be able to do something to make some additional income outside of what I was doing in my 9 to 5. Because growing up, I always thought that making a six-figure income was like the end all be all. Like, hey, this is great. I'm rich now. But when I moved back to Miami, making six figures is like, I'm low middle class here. Like it's not enough. Like the cost of living is so high. So I talked to my wife. I was like, babe, we got to do something different. She's like, I'm all ears. And this is the truth. I shit you not. Oh, can I curse on this thing? I don't know.
Absolutely.
I got military mouth. So um, this is what happened. Me and my wife, we sat down when I Googled, how do you get rich? I was tired. I was always trying to figure out, search something. And I came across this article and it said 90% of millionaires are made through real estate. And I was like, oh yeah, I read that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, way back in the day. I think this is a time to go and dust it off and brush up. So my next Google was, how do you do real estate? And then I found a website called Bigger Pockets, which I'm sure everybody's familiar with. And I learned about house hacking from a guy named Brandon Turner. And I was like, this is a genius idea. Let's go try it. My wife was like, I'm down. So we ended up, when we moved from Kansas City to Miami, we bought a duplex in a small town called Allapattah in Miami, about 5 minutes from the airport. Little rinky-dink thing, but I mean, at the time in 2019 or 2018 is when we bought it. This property cost 270,000 for a
Wow.
duplex in Miami. Like, good Lord, you can't even buy a condo for that right now. So we lived in one side, rented the other side out. It's called house hacking. And our mortgage was $2,100 on that property. The renter was paying 19. So effectively, it only cost us $200 per month to live in Miami. And that's when the light bulb went off. I was like, oh my God, real estate investing is a genius play because I can have other people paying for my living expenses. And then from there, we got into Airbnb, scaled that up really well, and we got to multiple six figures from that business. And then COVID happened. So this is right around 2020. COVID happened, travel shut down in South Florida, business income went to zero, and I was like, it was a little bit of a blessing and a curse because the uh, even though we weren't making the income from the Airbnb business anymore, I also wasn't spending 3 to 4 days a week at the Airbnb, at Home Depot, at Walmart, trying to resupply, restock, and do all this other stuff. And that's what got me to ask the question. I was like, okay, I know people are doing real estate, they're doing it at a big level, and they're not spending all their time inside all the properties that they own. So how do they do that? And that's where I learned from a mastermind. I went to a boot camp to learn about multifamily investing. And then it was just like everything in my life just came, this is it. You buy large buildings, you partner with other folks who don't either have the time or the desire to deal with tenants, termites, and toilets. And then you create these partnerships and you take down these large deals. And then you hire out third-party management. And I was like, beautiful. And that's what set me on the path to start doing. Basically, at this point, I've done 21 multifamily syndications.
Wow. Yeah, we're in the same mastermind group,
Yep.
warrior group, and you've been really successful, a top student in the group. Um, you grow your multifamily portfolio to, almost 4,000 doors. What strategies have been key to achieving like that rapid growth?
Yeah, the number one strategy I would say is getting networked with the right people. Multifamily, like most other businesses, but I would say more so in commercial real estate, is a people business. You got to know other sellers, other operators. You got to know other investors, people who have the capital who want to put into deals. And you've got to know the brokers who control the deals. They control the deal flow in certain markets. You got to build all these different relationships, the contractors, the property managers, every single aspect of the people that you need on your team. Could be legal people, insurance folks, whoever might be. You need to start developing a strong base at the first. And then I would say the next key to my success, what allowed me to move as rapidly as I did, was a strong, strong understanding of multifamily underwriting. If you understand the math behind complex real estate transactions like apartment syndications, then it gives you an edge over your competition because people are, for the most part, from what I've seen, most people don't have the temperament to sit down and look at these spreadsheets that have multiple pages and rows and columns and all these different cells. And it gets overwhelming and confusing. And there's a lot of different levers you can pull to affect the outcome. And what I've personally seen in the industry is that over the past few years, especially, people have been tweaking their numbers to fit the deal and not
Mhm.
adjusting the deal to fit in the numbers, right? And I can make any deal work by changing maybe one or two cells in anybody's underwriting. Very easy. I can do that. And guys, I tell you, there's probably thousands of cells of information in these underwriting models. But if you know what you're looking for and you know how you can safely and conservatively project what's going to happen in the future, I'm not saying I can predict what's going to happen in the future. I give myself at least four different conservative measures. I'm not aggressive on rent growth. I'm not aggressive on rent bumps after renovations. I'm not aggressive on my expense ratios being lower because I've seen, man, I'm running analysis on deals that have like expense ratios into the teens and low 20s, and I'm like, guys,
Oh, wow.
I today alone I looked at a deal, no trash contract, no electricity bill, no payroll. I'm like, who's gonna run this? Who's gonna
Yeah,
who's gonna take all the trash away?
fairy
Like,
dust.
yeah, no reserve amounts. I'm like, what if, an appliance breaks and you need to replace it? Now you're cannibalizing your own income. And the deal was on a shoestring budget and it barely worked. And that's like, I mean, that might be a different podcast. We can get into it right now because I'm all about that. But like, I think we're headed towards some real, real pain in the multifamily sector.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. A lot of people made deals work on a spreadsheet, but they
Hmm.
didn't really work in reality over the past couple of years. And that you know, pitfall is coming up soon for sure, whether that's
Yeah.
the refinancing debt or those deals aren't working out and they're underwater. But you mentioned, financial analysis and underwriting. I mean, that's probably the biggest component of multifamily,
Yeah.
and the most important thing. What key factors do you consider when evaluating properties, for their investment potential?
Um, I strongly believe on buying on present performance and not buying on pro forma,
Mm,
because the whole for everybody who's watching, if you want to understand multifamily investing, when you're doing it at a large scale, essentially at its bare bones, it's a fix and flip. It just takes years because there's so many units that need to get done. So you're
right.
buying low, fixing it up, and then selling it at an ARV that you hope to achieve. But if you buy on pro forma, which is the projected value in the future, you're buying at ARV and then hoping to increase above that and then make the sale. And that is exactly what's happened over these last few years because people are trying to be competitive. The reason why the values went through the roof is because interest rates at the time were very, very low. And when the interest rates are low, the capitalization rates, the cap rates are low because you can make a spread. If I'm borrowing money at 2% and I'm buying at a 4% cap rate, then I got a 2% spread that I can make a profit on, right? And my valuation is going to be like decent on the back end. But what happens if you buy at a 2% interest and you project on a 4% cap rate? And then now interest rates have spiked like crazy. And today interest rates are like 5, 6, even after this, 50 basis point cut from the Fed that everybody's whooping, cheering about and everything. I'm like, guys, that does absolutely nothing if the price is through the roof anyway.
Right.
That's the problem. Everybody's like, oh, when interest rates this, when interest rates that. I was like, it's not the interest rates. The one thing that people are seem to forget is that, and I said this in the beginning, this is a people business. Like, and I'm not talking about networking or making friends or business contacts or anything like that. I'm talking about people, just tenants. Nobody is concerned about the fact that tenants are being squeezed to like the bare bones. Their cost of living has gone through the roof. They say inflation is like 7 or 8%. The dollar store, the Dollar Tree went from $1 to $1.25. That's a 25% increase.
Right.
Everything from that store, and that is the cheapest store out there, right? Like if you're wondering about your grocery bills, there's um like ghost inflation in grocery stores. The prices are the same, but the quantities of what you're buying is lower. And so everything is just marginally more expensive, way more than 7 or 8%. And for me, I'm wondering how people are making it work because I always keep my personal budget separate from my business budget. And my personal budget is being like stretched. And I'm like, I always built in a plenty of buffer. We had enough money to fill up all of our retirement accounts, account for our expenses and everything else like that. But our groceries have gone from like in the hundreds to like the thousands now on a
That's
monthly basis.
ridiculous.
Yeah. And that's just the
And
food.
you
And
don't
then
even get much. You get a few bags.
yeah, get a few bags, and I find myself at Costco way more often than I like to be. Like when the greeters are calling me by my first name, I know it's a problem, right? They're memorizing my name, and then like on top of that, you got like crazy insurance costs. How many people have seen like their car insurance, their homeowners insurance? All of my property insurances have gone through the roof. On my 80 unit in Jacksonville, we were at $30,000 a year on insurance rates, and then this year we're at 120,000.
Wow.
Yeah, like that
Wow.
is an insane markup. It's coming down a little bit, but like a lot of the insurers have left Florida is making it very difficult. And that's one of the things that I know that most people weren't accounting for. You can't really account for a 400% increase in any line item of your expenses. But if you're
Mhm.
conservative in a lot of other areas, luckily for us, we projected lower rent growth and we're still able to make it. That the actual rents that hit in that market were higher than we projected, and that made up for the difference on those expense sides. So that deal is pretty safe. And we have, long-term fixed rate debt. Because if anybody's on variable rate debt for one, if
Hmm.
your loan is coming due next year or the year after, I feel for you because you need to get out now while people believe that these lower interest rates are going to spike the values of these properties. If you can get rid of that hot potato, good move to you. And whoever buys it, I hope you buy it with really low leverage and a really long term because when the values drop, like I believe they're going to, I might be the only person who's like crazy and psycho sitting on the sidelines thinking that the values are gonna that we have to have a correction. But I truly believe that it's one or the other. We either have a major correction in the market to get the prices where they need to be, just like '07, '08, '09, or we enter an era of hyperinflation where everything just costs so much, the value of the dollar is so low, we end up going like Cuba or Venezuela or something like that, where like toilet paper costs $300 now. And that's just the new norm. So, and it might be a cause for the country to switch to their new US cryptocurrency they've always been whispering about.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's crazy how much inflation is across America. Everybody feels it, especially renters right now. I mean, we're a renter nation. Nobody can
Yeah.
afford. A lot of people can't afford home ownership anymore. It's just, prices have gone up 100x in some areas. Like for instance, the house that I bought last year, 3 years ago, this house was 300 grand. Now this year it's like 800. I mean, yeah, it's just like it's nuts. Or
Yeah.
like in lower end neighborhoods that you could like in like, inner city stuff in the hoods where stuff used to be like 20 grand. Now it's like 200. It's like,
Yeah.
what? It's insane. And then multifamily is a whole nother story.
Yeah. I say like this. If you look around the world, I know you like to travel. If you look at real estate in other countries around the world, you'll see that the unique thing about America is that you could buy it as an investment and make a profit out of it. But in the other places, like the hyperinflation has already hit them as far as the values. You try to go and buy a flat in London or buy an apartment in Korea, you'll see that like the value, like it blows people's minds how cheap real estate is in the US. And I think the US is going to catch up with the rest of the world just because that's how
Yeah.
money flows. As more and more investors, and like you said, we're becoming a renter nation. We're going to be like investors are going to be the ones who own the assets. So I'm still building my portfolio, my private stuff. I have my syndications that I do so I can roll capital and roll investors into other deals. But like by and large, everything's gonna be controlled by investors, large hedge funds eventually is gonna control everything. All these communities that they're building, brand new houses, they're built to rent communities.
Yeah.
Like, so people are going there, like renting from day one, and that's just what it is. Some large corporation or family office is going to control and own that land, that dirt, that real estate, and they're going to collect all the rents year over year over year. And when somebody wants to go and finally buy a house, they're going to be priced out of the market. Like for my house, same thing. We bought it at I think it was 465, and now it's like 800 or nine. And it's like, how? Because people's salary didn't go from like
Oh,
70,000 to 140. Like
that
nobody
went seven. It
experienced
went
that.
to 70 from 72,000.
Exactly.
Knowing how
70,
raises go.
yeah. Oh, 75 with the bonus, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like how do people make it? And that same scenario is the fear that I had when I first got started in real estate investing. That was the reason why I said, "Hey, you know what? This six-figure job is not going to cut it. I need to do something. I have to do something." I tried to warn my friends, all my people in my circle, and they just thought that I was like crazy, like boy who cried wolf or whatever. And I'm like, guys, this isn't like I'm not saying, "Hey, it would be nice if you did this." I'm saying, if you don't do this, you will be poor. The country is going to evaporate, vaporize the middle class, and it's going to be the haves and the have-nots. Either you own
Yep.
assets or you are owned, and you're just a renter and you're borrowing everything. You're going to be leasing vehicles, you're going to be leasing them where you live, you're going to lease everything and own nothing, and you're not going to be able to build wealth in a meaningful way. I mean, sure, you can put money in the stock market and grow at 7% per year, but it's like that's way too slow. Rule of 72, you're going to double your money in 10 years? Like,
Yeah, and with that play, it's like you can't live off of the income. Like the
mm-hmm,
stock, unless you're investing tons of money into dividend stocks,
right.
most people don't have tons of money. So it's like, yeah, the stock market's a great play. Well, not a great play. I don't agree with the stock market. I'm wealth
Yeah.
without Wall Street, but it can be a beneficial play if you need the money, 20 years down the line, not today.
Yeah, and that's why I say grow your wealth as fast as you can while you're young. And then once you do have that nest egg, I mean, with my strategy in investing into commercial value ideals, I think anybody who's making a decent income that has the ability to set aside 25 to $50,000 a year, would be able to set themselves up to become financially free in 7 to 10 years by constantly reinvesting that capital over and over and over. Because you can't promise that in the stock market. There's too many
No.
ups and downs. And once there's a correction, I mean, when my mom is retiring this year and her stock portfolio took a hit, and like out of nowhere, just boom, $90,000 gone. And it's like, and she's pretty conservatively diversified. What do you do when your portfolio takes a hit like that? Like there's no waiting to catch up because she needs to start taking distributions to live. So now she's selling at lower than where she would like to sell. Um, to be able to make those plays work. So again, I like real estate because I buy it, my income increases. I buy more real estate, my income increases, and I can just build and stack and compound that way. And the more streams of income that I have coming in, it makes it so that I can buy more real estate at a faster pace, so I can
Mm.
compound even faster. It's like manual compounding, not just waiting for like at a 7% average growth in the stock market. My 100,000 turns into 200,000 after 10 years, and then I need another 10 years to turn it into 400,000. But by that time, I mean, I'm already 41, I'll be 61. One more compounding period, I can make $800,000. And it's like, okay, it took me 30 years to make 800 grand, which sounds fair, decent for some people, but I don't think, I think with the rising cost of living and how much everything's going to cost, it's going to be a wash later on down the road.
Yeah, for sure. So, underwriting is a huge proponent, but also having, a rock solid team. So, like,
Mhm.
what traits do you look for when building a team to support your real estate investments?
So I look for people who are different from me. I don't need more analytical, nerdy, number-minded folks on my team. That's me, right? I need somebody who hates numbers, somebody who wants to swing a hammer and see a project, somebody who has the vision of like, oh, I can see this really ugly property, and if we do this, this, that, and the third, we can turn it into this masterful masterpiece. Somebody who's got that level of vision and then like a die-hard work ethic to go ahead and get it done no matter what. Whenever they get faced with challenges and obstacles, they can pull through. They'll come out in the fourth quarter and buzzer beater, get the job done, and they just show up all the time. Now, there's a lot of guys who are like that. They are the ones who do the deals. I call them my operators, or my superstar operators. I've been with, I think, 11 different partnerships, and for the most part, the people that I partner with have come through in like the best ways possible. There's things that like when I sit in the meetings and I listen to what they have to deal with, I'm just like, this is why I live in the spreadsheets, right? Because I'm not made for some of the stuff that I hear. Because when you're dealing with people and it's a human business and you get to see the best of times where like you get to provide housing for somebody who was always struggling. And it's like an affordable place for them to live, and they're able to get back on their feet and make something of themselves and then grow and flourish and be awesome. I love that part of real estate. But you also have, it's a spectrum. You have the other side where it's like, hey, this guy didn't make the best decisions for himself and for his family. And, sometimes desperation kicks in and they make wrong moves. They get in trouble with the law. And then there's evictions, and then there's, financial troubles, and it just spirals out of control. I see that side of it too. Like I wouldn't make a good property manager, because if I was, people would just run over me. They can sell me any kind of sob story and I just stop collecting rents, right?
Oh man.
Yeah. So I'm not that guy. But some of those other people out there that I partner with, they're the ones who are like, hey, rent's due on the first, you got 3 days, otherwise your notice is coming of eviction and it's gonna go to the sheriff and blah 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 blah. And I'm
Oh
just like,
yeah.
"Ugh." Yeah. So that's what I look for as far as people that I want to partner with and operate. It's I hate to say it, man, but you need a killer, like a shark out there, to be able to deal with that type of business. And they're nice to me and my investors, but when it comes to running a business, it's like it's a contract for all of us to put up our own hard-earned money. We work extremely hard to build up the capital to deploy into a deal. And the hopes is we could take that money, put it into a place where it's going to do some good in the community, and we sign contracts for people like, hey, we're going to provide you safe, affordable, clean housing. You're gonna have a nice roof over your head. We're gonna give you the nicest amenities. We're gonna give you an upscale version of living for the same price as what the median household rents are in this area. So we provide really nice renovated units for the average market rent. I don't shoot for rents above market. I don't like to do that. It's not conservative. That's aggressive. And and it makes it a no-brainer for people to want to rent with us. And in exchange, the only thing we ask is you pay your bills on time. I don't want you to pay more. I don't want you to pay sooner than what we agree upon. Just adhere to the contract. And so with that business arrangement, I can understand these guys' perspective of saying, hey, you know what? We had a deal. We provide the housing, you provide the income, and then everybody's happy. It's a win for the tenant. It's a win for the investor. It's a win for the operator. It's a win for the community because now they have an increased value on a property that we pay more taxes on. So it benefits the city to have more income that way. So that's that's like the broad scope of how it is. And it all starts with an idea of somebody who wants to sell or somebody who has to sell. And then somebody like myself has to sit there and analyze every single nook and cranny of that property, what it's going to cost to get it from where it is to where it's going to be, and then how much is it worth for us to buy it to be able to make sure that it's profitable for us in the back end. If it works for the seller and it works for the buyer, then boom, we can make a deal happen. So
For someone like yourself, that has almost 4,000 doors, somebody listening into that maybe not in real estate, or they are in real estate, but they're, an operator, landlord themselves, and they're like,
mhm.
holy shit, 4,000 doors, you must be ready to jump off a bridge or something like that. Especially being a husband, a father, an entrepreneur outside of syndication. So what is like your daily habits, routines look like to maintain like your drive and your focus with your business as well as like with your home life?
So when I first got started, there was a high level of sacrifice that needed to be made. And I made that decision early. And I sat my wife down. I got permission. Because I told her, the mastermind that we joined, it's not cheap, right? But it was definitely worth it because of the connections and the deals. I would never have been able to learn how to do this business if I didn't have a mentor to showing me the way about, hey, this is how you navigate this space. Because if you're trying to do this on your own, I promise you, you're wasting your time. You will never figure it out. I know some people say, oh, eventually I'll crack that nut. You will never figure it out unless you have somebody showing you exactly how it's done. Because I know what it takes to get it done, and even still, it's a nightmare. You just know how to bob and weave when you have somebody who's lighting the path for you. But in the beginning, I made the mental decision. I made the commitment to myself to say, hey, you know what? I paid a pretty penny, no pun intended, for this mastermind to learn this business. I'm not going to give myself any opportunity to fail. So what I did, and I explained to my wife, I was like, babe, I don't want to mess this up. Because a little backstory about me, I've always been ambitious, but I've never been committed. I've tried to do any number of other businesses before I got into real estate. I tried to do stock trading. I tried to do Amazon FBA. I tried to do options and Forex. I tried to do crypto stuff. And I would get into it. And I had my real estate business before, right? I had my real estate license. I had my life insurance license. So I did those businesses for years. And I'd have a little bit of success, and then I'd get to a sticking point, it'd get hard, and then I'd quit. And I went on to the next shiny object, whatever it was. And I did this for a long time. So when it came time for me to put like some serious cash behind a mentorship to learn how to do this business, I said, I don't want to repeat the same mistakes that I've been doing for the better part of a decade. And I need to commit to this. And I told my wife, it's going to suck, it's going to be hard, but give me 1 year and I'm going to lock myself in this room and I'm going to learn this business and I'm going to be the best to ever do it. And I got all these awards and all this other stuff. And that's what I had a conversation with myself. I had to be real. I had to have a moment. And I said, babe, I don't care about holidays. I don't care about birthdays. I don't care if my parents come over because we moved back to Florida to be closer to them. I was like, this is what's gonna happen. My parents would come on the weekends. I'd go out and greet them. I love you, hug, kiss, bye. I'd be in here, and I hear them leaving. It would break my heart. But I was working on underwriting, or I was working on taking an investor call. I was working on something, and my son was born shortly before I joined the mastermind. He was born in 2019. I joined the mastermind in 2020, and so I missed a lot of that first year or so of him growing up because I was dedicated to the mission, the cause, the purpose, and that was the sacrifice that I had to make in the beginning. That is not sustainable. That might not even have been necessary, but it is what I did, and it helped me get to where I was getting. In my first year, I was shooting to do maybe $10 million of real estate, 450 units, 450 unit properties. I wanted 200 doors and $10 million of assets under management. With that crazy approach that I took, underwriting 3 to 5 deals every single day, and meeting with all my investors, and going from 6 a.m. to 11 o'clock at night, I ended up doing 858 doors, about $120 million of real estate in that first year. And then from there, I just took off. And then it took me some time to like break out of that, because that was my new norm. That was my habit of just being like crazy obsessed about doing this business and meeting every single person that I could to help me grow this business. And my wife had to talk me down, because I was like, no, no, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. I was like, babe, I'm doing this for the family. And this is like a real moment here. She said, what if there's no family to work for? And that's when I took a breath,
Ooh,
and it was like a reality check. And I was like, because she was right. I'm just used to being locked in here and doing this work and ignoring my family, ignoring this. I'd go out, get a plate of food, bring it over here and eat it. And I'd have like plates stacked up. And Rod wasn't kidding when he's talking about those mutants locked away, doing underwriting and everything. And I was maybe overzealous in my endeavors, but I think it paid off. And now my new schedule, I wake up, I go get my workout in the morning, because if I don't do it in the morning, there's no other time to get it done. So that 4 or 5 o'clock time is mine, all right, for staying physically fit. I'm all right, not bad for 41. And then I come home and I prepare breakfast for everybody. I love to cook. So I prepare breakfast for family. We have family time in the morning from 6:45 to about 8:15. That's when I take the kids to school. I have the pleasure and the privilege of being able to drop both my kids off at school. I walk them in and I spend that time with them. We talk in the car. I love that. This is stuff that I didn't get to do with my kid when he was one in the beginning. And then I go knock out all my appointments. I do my recordings for content. I look at deals. I have my meetings, my Zoom calls, check out emails, whatever I do throughout the day. And then by 2:30, I'm out to go pick them up, take them to basketball, take them to swimming. And then when I come back home, I have like a small window to work between maybe 4 and 5. And then after 5 o'clock, it's family time, 5 to 8. And then it's wife time from 8:30 to whenever we pass out. So
nice. I love that.
that's the new balance. That's every single day, 7 days a week.
No, no longer a hermit.
Yeah, no longer a hermit. I get to
You,
see the
you
sun
you
sometimes.
didn't have an option though, so that's for sure.
Yeah. And now I got my third baby on the way, so
Nice.
I am so like blessed to have like a family. Like my wife is a rock star. I would never been able to do this business without her. She's been extremely supportive and understanding of everything that I needed. And so now it's just my job to give back and grow the family. And she's on the same page that I am. I was like, we don't splurge too much on stuff. No matter how much money we make or whatever, we're just reinvesting everything to hit our numbers. Because I'm telling you guys, if you're not investing the profits that you're making from your business to a point where money is just not an issue. I think by the time I turn 50, I will have enough money to do whatever I want for as long as I want forever, and I'll never be able to spend more than the returns make. That's my goal. That's my target.
I love that. So Rasool, hey, time flies when we're having fun.
Yeah, man.
What's like the ultimate goal as we wrap this up? Is this like a legacy play for your children? What does that look like for you?
It initially I thought it was, but I don't want to spoil my kids. The most important thing that I think that I could instill in them is not something that I can give them physically, but it's a lesson that I can teach them and ingrain in them. Because if you or I were to lose everything and have to start from scratch, we have the knowledge and the experience to be able to build it back. But if
Hmm.
I give my kids a portfolio of like, 1,000, 2,000, 4,000 units, and all they're gonna get accustomed to is collecting a paycheck. And if something goes awry with these properties, they can very easily lose it. And then what? Now they're going to be stuck and stranded and not able to fend for themselves. So, more than anything, I want to be able to instill good values. I want them to understand real estate or business so that they know about income, expenses, investing, and they understand that dynamic of money. Like money is a tool to be used to make more money so that eventually you can just do what you want to do on your time, right? You use the money to buy back your freedom, and then with that freedom, do whatever you want. If you want to be an actor, a musician, or something in the arts, by all means, go ahead and do it. But understand how money works and how to utilize it to afford you the luxury of, time freedom, location freedom, and, work freedom. You can make work optional. If you want to work a 9 to 5 because you like that craft, go for it, right? Just know how to walk away if you need to. If you're unhappy at that job, then you can leave without having to sweat or worry or how you're going to make ends meet, right? I just want them to not have money as a worry in their life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I totally agree.
Yeah.
For listeners who want to connect with you, learn more about Rasool CRE and multifamily syndication, where's the best place for them to go to?
Find me on Facebook, Rasool CRE, Instagram, LinkedIn. You can go to my website, rasoolcre.com. Shoot me a message. I'm very accessible. I love to answer anybody's questions if I can help you out. Also, I have an education platform. If you're interested in learning how to analyze deals before you join a big, 5-figure mastermind or something like that, I have a very affordable way. It's very reasonable for people to join in, learn what you need to learn about multifamily analyzation skills, and then once you're done, you can leave. Right? It's a membership-based program. It's very affordable, and you can find me. It's Sool School on the School platform. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Awesome, Rasool. Well, it was a pleasure having you on Philly Fortune Talks today.
Hey, thanks so much, Jake. See you next time, bud.
Thanks for tuning in to Philly Fortune Talks with Jake Penny. Inspired to share your success story? Visit phillyfortunetalks.com/guest and let's inspire together.